button right here and the CF clearance. These are the Cloudflare specific cookies, and it knows that when we send these, that it's checked us out and it's all happy. Here's a simple method to help you avoid being blocked and IP banned from sites with low to medium bot protection. It's going to give you a good chance to avoid all but the toughest sites, and the best part is that it's very simple and very fast. Let's look at what this method is, when you should use it, how it works to avoid blocks, and how you can adapt it to your situation. And whilst it's not a golden ticket, it's absolutely worth learning and knowing how to do. Before I go into more detail, we need to understand a little bit about how your scrapers get blocked. The most common is a JavaScript test. These sites execute some basic JS on your browser and compare it to the result that it's expecting. If you aren't using a browser at all, it's a simple block before you've even had a chance. There's lots of ways through fingerprinting that your bots can be found out, and if you're interested in learning about those, drop me a comment down below and I will create a video on it. Given that we know that plain requests are easy to spot and block, that leaves us with running a browser, but this is painfully slow and not even guaranteed given the fingerprinting. But what we can do is use a modified browser instance to give us the best chance of passing that test, and then returning those cookies back to us to reuse with subsequent standard requests within a session. It's important to note that we will absolutely need to use proxies for this, and in some cases certain anti-bot measures include tagging your cookies with your IP. So if we rotate, it's a red flag and our whole session is blocked. But with today's sponsor, ProxyScrape, we have the option to use sticky sessions that will hold that IP for us for a certain amount of minutes. With ProxyScrape, we have access to high quality, secure, fast, and ethically sourced proxies that are perfect for our use case here. There's 10 million plus proxies in the pool to use, all with unlimited concurrent sessions from countries all over the globe, enabling us to scrape quickly and efficiently. I'd always recommend residential proxies, as these are the best option for helping FlareSolverr here beat any anti-bot protection on sites. And with auto rotation or the sticky sessions I suggested earlier, this is the simplest but most effective way to avoid our projects being blocked and allowing us access to the data we need. It's only one line of code to add, and then we can let ProxyScrape handle the rest from there. And any traffic you purchase is yours to use whenever you need, as it doesn't ever expire. There's definitely a use case for data center proxies though, and ProxyScrape has you covered there too. Unlimited bandwidth, 99% uptime and no rate limit with IP authentication makes them a great option in the right use case. So if this all sounds good to you, go ahead and check out ProxyScrape at the link in the description below. Okay, let's carry on with our project and get the cookies that we are after. So we know we're going to make a clear, good request, pass that test, and then keep the cookies and matching IP potentially to have the best chance for more requests within our session. But how do we do that? Well, there's a few options. You could run an instance of Playwright or Selenium with the undetected Chrome driver, or even do it manually with your real browser and copy them out, the headers and the cookies, or what I've been doing recently, which is using FlareSolverr. This is a special version of Chrome with the undetected driver that runs as an HTTP service locally via Docker. Give it our URL and it will make sure it runs a browser and passes that basic JavaScript test for us and returns the HTML page and, crucially, the cookies. Now I'll show you how to pass these back into your request session shortly, but let's have a look and see FlareSolverr working and check out the cookies it's responding with. So here's the FlareSolverr GitHub page. It explains a little bit here about how it works. We use Selenium with the undetected Chrome driver to give you the best chance of passing those JavaScript tests, how to run it using Docker, which is very, very easy. Just use Docker run and it will start and get going for you. And then it tells you a little bit about some basic usage here. As you can see, we make a request to its endpoint, and then we give it the URL and let it do its thing, and it returns the data to us. But what we're interested in the most today are the cookies, and down here somewhere we have our return only cookies, which just ignores all of the rest of the HTML data, because we don't want to be making requests through this to get the HTML. We want to make requests through this to get us those cookies back. Of course, we can add in our proxy here as well. Here's mine running at the moment. As you can see, just on this endpoint, it just tells you that it's ready and whatever version, etc., etc. So let me show you my code. So I have a get cookies function that's going to take in that initial URL for me. It's going to do what we saw on the GitHub page, make the request. I have my return only cookies set to true. I also have my proxy And I also have my proxy set to the sticky proxies, which I've got configured to keep the same IP for about 3 minutes, I think, which is the ones from ProxyScrape that I'm using. From here, we're going to return the JSON response, which is going to contain the cookie data, which is a list of dictionaries. And we can see this down here. I'm creating the cookies here. Then I have this load cookies function because we want to put these cookies into our requests session so we can then use that session with those cookies going forward, which is going to tell the website, hey, you've already checked us. We're legit, let us through, and it's going to do so. Now, to do this, we're going to use cookie jar from dict because we want to take the dictionary from the cookies that we get back from FlareSolverr and convert that into a cookie jar object for our session. That's why I created this function to do so. And then in the main function, I create my session object. I get my sticky proxy string from my environment, my local environment variables. I recommend you do this rather than sticking them into your code because you'll inevitably leave something in there and you don't want people accessing it. And then we go ahead and go to this URL and get the cookies responding cookies to that. Then we load them into our session, and then I'm just going to use http bin/cookies and IP so we can see that those cookies come back to us when we make requests to here. And I did the IP one just to check that my proxy was working fine. So I'm going to go ahead, save, and we'll run this code. And we'll see it's going to take a few seconds because it needs to start that browser up. It needs to pass any of the Cloudflare tests, etc. But we aren't going to be using it. We're going to be using it once every, in my case, probably 2 or 3 minutes. Make plenty of requests in between. So here we are. So the thing that we're interested in the most is the CF_CF cookies. Here's one right here, and the CF clearance. These are the Cloudflare specific cookies, and it knows that when we send these, that it's checked us out and it's all happy. And we can see that this is my proxy IP, which I will now have for however long, I think 3 minutes. So that's essentially it. We can take these cookies, I've sent them to HTTP bin, but you would continue to send them to the same site to make subsequent requests through your request session much faster than waiting for a browser to load up each time. So as you can see, we successfully got ourselves good cookies to use. But what is the significance of these? Well, now we have our CF cookie. So that's the kind of verification that Cloudflare knows that we've passed the JavaScript test and it will allow us access. That's the important part. It's kind of like our free pass, all without having to do much more than a single browser request every time we need a new set of cookies. But does this actually stop us being blocked? Well, it's important to know that this field is ever changing and that something that works today may not work tomorrow. This method is very good for low-level protection, where you find yourself up against pages with mild Cloudflare WAF levels, which will get you around the things like checking you're not a bot, all that sort of stuff. This will actually get you quite far still, but as I said, it's not a golden ticket to never getting blocked again. My opinion has always been to learn as much as possible to give yourself the best chance at success. If you want to know more about quick and easy ways to scrape large amounts of data, you're going to want to watch this video next.